Imagine you are on a retreat somewhere in the mountains. The air smells like pine resin and freshly washed linen. Someone next to you takes a slow, deep breath, opens their eyes, and smiles in a way that clearly signals something just happened. Something big. Something you obviously have not experienced yet. And then that person says, "I think I am enlightened." Now there are exactly two reactions in the room. Some people nod with reverence. Others think, "Well, of course you are." Welcome to Spirita Vivo. Today we are talking about one of the most magnificent paradoxes in the spiritual world. And we are doing it with a smile, because sometimes humor is the most direct route to the truth. Imagine David Attenborough narrating a spiritual retreat. His voice, calm and precise, observes, "Here we witness a rare specimen, the freshly enlightened, recognizable by a striking air of serenity, occasionally interrupted by intense explanations of that very serenity." The creature tends to direct a particular gaze toward beginners, best described as compassionate superiority. Carol from Columbus knows that gaze. She has seen it on someone in her meditation circle. And if she's honest with herself, she has probably worn it too. Here's where it gets interesting, because the problem with claiming enlightenment is not new. It is as old as the search itself. The Tao Te Ching, written more than 2,000 years ago, says, in essence, "Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know." Jesus of Nazareth said to the Pharisees, who considered themselves especially clear-sighted, "If you were blind, you would have no guilt. But because you claim to see, your guilt remains." Buddhist traditions have a specific term for it: clinging to enlightenment. It is considered one of the most subtle traps on the path. Three very different traditions. One shared observation. The claim dismantles itself. Carol is scrolling through her phone. She finds the profile of an acquaintance. 3 lotus symbols in the bio. A quote about non-attachment. Below it, a link to an online course for $297. The course is called Your Path to Enlightenment. Carol thinks, maybe enlightenment should not function as a brand. And she is right. Here is the real punchline. And it is not meant to be cruel. It is just deeply human. The human brain loves identities. It needs them. An identity provides orientation, safety, and a sense of belonging. So when someone has a genuine spiritual experience, something deep, something that dissolves boundaries, the very first thing the brain does is try to turn that experience into an identity. I had an experience becomes I am someone who had that experience becomes I am enlightened. The ego does not retreat. It just changes costumes. The ego that used to collect status symbols becomes the ego that collects spiritual achievements. Instead of an expensive car, a meditation cushion from the right lineage. Instead of designer clothes, a retreat certificate. The mechanism is identical, only the props have changed. There is a place on the internet that demonstrates this paradox in real time. On Reddit, in the spirituality forum, someone posted, "Thinking you are enlightened is the most foolish thing of all." What followed is a masterpiece of unintentional comedy. Dozens of people argue passionately about who truly understands enlightenment and who does not, with growing sharpness, with increasing certainty that their own position is the correct one. One user writes, with great elevation. Those who have seen a little tend to speak more quietly. 3 comments later, that same user becomes considerably louder. This is not a criticism. It is a mirror. And mirrors have the advantage of not judging. Now, away from the humor, or at least one step to the side of it, people who are regarded as genuinely mature in spiritual traditions share one quality. Not a unified teaching, not a common language, not a particular style, but one thing. They have less to prove. Not because they are better at controlling themselves, but because the inner pressure to be someone or to be recognized has genuinely eased. Carol has observed this in an older woman in her yoga class. This woman rarely talks about herself. When she does say something, people listen. Not because she demands it, but because she does not need it. That is the difference. Not silence as a technique. Silence as a symptom of something that has relaxed at its core. There is a question that makes all of this much simpler. Not, am I enlightened? But, am I a little kinder today than I was yesterday? That is measurable. That is applicable tonight. It requires no certificate, no retreat, no online course for $297. When Carol asks herself this question at dinner, in a conversation with her ex-husband, on a phone call with her daughter, that is not a small question. That is the actual work. One more nuance, because it would be too easy to oversimplify. Silence is not automatically wisdom. Sometimes silence is cowardice. Sometimes silence is comfort. And speaking is not automatically ego. Sometimes speaking is courage. Sometimes speaking is love. The question is not, do I speak or do I stay silent? The question is, what purpose does what I am doing right now actually serve? When someone says, I am enlightened because they genuinely want to share what moves them, that is something different from saying it to rise in a room. That is hard to judge from the outside, and it is sometimes hard to be honest about from the inside. But the question itself, when you are willing to ask it, is already a sign. Same camera, same pine forest, same retreat, same person as before. But now, on the 3rd day, something has shifted. They help someone carrying a heavy bag up the stairs. They listen when someone else speaks. Really listen. They laugh at themselves. Attenborough speaks again with that same unhurried voice. Here we observe an interesting development. The specimen has stopped observing its own development. It is simply present. That is the moment that matters. Enlightenment as a destination may be the most reliable way to miss it. Not because the direction is wrong, but because fixating on the destination keeps us from taking the next step. And the next step is always the same. A little more attentive. A little more kind. A little less of what we feel we need to prove. Carol knows this. Deep within herself, she knows this. And maybe that is enough. Maybe that is actually everything. This is Spirita Vivo. If this episode moves something in you, share it. There might be someone in your life who needs to hear this right now. Until next time, live lightly.